92 seconds. That is all it took. 92 seconds for Attorney General Pam Bondi to sit in complete silence after Congressman Thomas Massie asked her one question. Not a complicated question, not a trick question, a simple question about $847,000 that moved through the Department of Justice during her first week in office. Watch what happens when Massie pulls out that red folder. Watch Bondi's face. Watch her lawyers scramble. And watch 92 seconds of silence that just ended her credibility. You need to see this until the very end, because what Massie uncovered is not just about money. It is about who that money protected and why Bondi is refusing to explain where it went. If you are new to this channel, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. This hearing just became the most important testimony of the year, and you need to see every second of what happened next. Let me set the scene for you. House Judiciary Committee. Room 2141, Tuesday morning, 9:47 a.m. Eastern Time. The room was already packed when Bondi arrived, every seat taken. Journalists lined up against the back wall, cameras positioned at every angle. But here is what nobody expected. Thomas Massie, Republican from Kentucky, walked in carrying a red folder so thick it looked like a phone book. Security scanned it twice. The guard looked confused. Massie just smiled and said 5 words. Evidence does not need clearance. Bondi sat at the witness table with her usual confidence. 3 lawyers flanking her, 2 aides behind her. That look she does, you know the one, chin up, shoulders back. The "I have survived worse than you" posture. She has done dozens of these hearings. She knows how to handle hostile questions. She knows how to run out the clock. She was not prepared for what Massie brought with him. The first 40 minutes were standard procedure. Other representatives asked their questions. Department of Justice budget allocations, civil rights enforcement priorities, some back and forth about prosecutorial discretion. Bondi handled it fine, gave her usual non-answers, checked her phone twice, looked almost bored. Then Massie took the microphone. "Madam Attorney General," the room shifted. That electrical charge when everyone suddenly realizes something is about to happen. People sat up straighter. Cameras refocused. Even the stenographer looked up from her keyboard. "I want to talk about a wire transfer that occurred on February 8th of this year." Bondi's expression did not change. She has heard this before. Anonymous sources, leaked documents, conspiracy theories. She has her standard response ready. "Congressman, I am not aware of any specific transfer that I am not asking if you are aware." Massie opened the red folder. "I am telling you what I found. This folder contains bank records, wire transfer receipts, internal DOJ memos, all documenting a payment of $847,000 that moved through the Justice Department on February 8th, 2 days after you were confirmed as Attorney General." He paused. Let that sink in. $847,000, 2 days into your tenure, transferred to an offshore account registered under a shell company in the Cayman Islands. The room went silent. Not the polite quiet of people waiting for the next sentence, the heavy, thick silence of people who just heard something they cannot unhear. If you have made it this far and this matters to you, hit that subscribe button right now. I am serious. This content reaches people because of your engagement. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and keep watching because what Massie reveals next is even worse. Bondi leaned forward slightly. "Congressman, I categorically reject any characterization of improper financial activity within the Department of Justice. You can reject it all you want." Massie pulled out the first document. "This will not change what is written here. Document 1, date February 8th, wire transfer authorization form, origin Department of Justice Financial Management Division, destination account number ending in 7473, registered owner LLC, named Executive Branch Consulting Services." He held it up for the cameras. "In this document, your Deputy Assistant Attorney General, a man named Richard Feldman, authorizes the immediate transfer of $847,000 with the notation, quote, legal settlement, executive privilege claim, classified matter." He set the document down. "Do you know what settlement this refers to, Madam Attorney General?" Bondi did not answer. The response, Massie continued, came 3 hours later from the DOJ press office. Quote, "The reference transaction involves a confidential legal matter that cannot be disclosed in an open setting." He looked at Bondi. $847,000. Public money, secret recipient. "And your office says we are not allowed to ask questions. How does that work in a democracy?" One of Bondi's lawyers, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes, leaned over and whispered something. Bondi shook her head slightly. No, she was going to handle this herself. Congressman, decisions about settlement payments involve complex legal considerations that I am going to stop you right there. Massie's hand came up, not aggressive, just a gentle gesture like he was directing traffic. Complex legal considerations. I have heard that phrase before. Let me show you how complex it got. Document 2. Massie pulled out another paper, February 11th, 3 days after the wire transfer. An internal DOJ memo from the Office of Legal Counsel to all division heads. Subject: executive branch protection protocols. Quote, effective immediately, all documents related to settlement agreement, EP-02-25, are designated attorney-client privileged and exempt from FOIA requests. He paused. Attorney-client privilege. That is interesting. Because attorney-client privilege protects communications between a lawyer and their client. So who exactly is the client here? Is it the Department of Justice, or is it someone else? A murmur went through the room. Journalists were typing. Committee members were exchanging looks. Bondi's jaw tightened, just barely, but it tightened. But it gets worse, Massie said. Because 6 days later, on February 17th, an analyst at the Treasury Department sent an email to their supervisor flagging the transaction as, quote, unusual and potentially requiring SAR filing. He read from the document, quote, I have reviewed the wire transfer of $847,000 from DOJ to Executive Branch Consulting Services. The recipient entity has no employees, no physical address, no business history. This appears to meet the threshold for suspicious activity reporting. Response from the supervisor, quote, do not file SAR, matter is classified, executive branch decision. He looked at Bondi, executive branch decision. Someone at the very top of the government decided that $847,000 moving to a shell company was not worth investigating. Now I need you to tell me, who made that decision? This comparison was devastating. Treasury analysts are required by law to report suspicious transactions, but someone overruled them, someone classified, someone in the executive branch, and Bondi was sitting there with no answer. Massie was not done, not even close. He pulled out a document from a different section of the file. This one had financial spreadsheets attached, bank routing numbers visible even from the gallery. This document, he said, was obtained through a federal court order last week. It is the complete transaction history of the account that received your $847,000. He opened it from February 8th to February 23rd. 15 days. This account received 3 separate deposits. $847,000 from the Department of Justice, $293,000 from an entity called National Security Litigation Fund, and $1.2 million from something called Presidential Legal Defense Trust. He began reading slowly, letting every word land. Total deposits $2.3 million. And then on February 24th, all of it, every single dollar, was transferred out to 3 different accounts. One in Switzerland, one in Singapore, one in the British Virgin Islands. All 3 accounts registered to trustees whose identities are protected by foreign banking secrecy laws. He looked up. And at the bottom of this final transfer authorization is a notation, quote, payment in full for settlement of claims related to J.E. matter. He set the paper down. J.E. matter. Jeffrey Epstein. The room exploded. Not metaphorically. Literally. Shouting from the gallery. Journalists jumping to their feet. Camera operators scrambling for better angles. The committee chairman banging his gavel so hard it echoed. Order, order in this chamber. Bondi sat frozen. Her face had gone pale. Not white, pale, like someone just told her something she did not want to hear. Her lead lawyer, a gray-haired man in his 60s, stood up so fast his chair scraped. Mr. Chairman, I must object to this line of sit-down counselor. Massie's voice was ice. Your client can answer for herself. But Bondi did not answer. She just sat there staring at the document on the screen behind Massie's head. The bank routing numbers blown up 10 feet tall. Massie said quietly, now almost gently, Madam Attorney General, do you recognize this transaction? Silence. Do you know who received $2.3 million in exchange for settling Jeffrey Epstein-related claims? More silence. Bondi's lawyer tried again. "Congressman, my client needs time to review time." Massie stood up. Actually stood up from his chair. I have never seen a Republican congressman stand during a hearing to question a Republican attorney general like this. Time. This transaction shut down an active investigation. It paid off witnesses. It buried evidence. He pointed at Bondi. And you authorized it 3 days into your job. 3 days. What did they tell you in your first briefing? What did they ask you to do? If you are still watching right now, drop a comment. Tell me what you think just happened. Who do you think received that money? Where did the order come from? Because we are about to find out. Bondi finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, strained. "Congressman, I was not personally involved in every financial transaction that occurs within a massive federal agency." "Don't." Massie cut her off. "Don't tell me you were not involved. Don't tell me you did not know. Your deputy signed the authorization. Your office classified the documents. Your press team issued the cover story. He picked up another document. And here is what happened after you authorized that payment. DOJ activity on Epstein-related litigation dropped 94%. Witness deposition 0. Document production requests 0. Active case files 0. You did not just settle one claim, Madam Attorney General. You killed every single investigation your department had into Jeffrey Epstein's associates. And here is the part Massie said, pulling out one more document that should terrify every American watching this. This is a DOJ internal list created in 2023 and updated in 2025 during your tenure. It is titled Individuals Excluded from Epstein-Related Investigative Activities. He held it up. 47 names. And next to each name, a code explaining why they are protected. Code A, political sensitivity, 12 names. Code B, diplomatic relations, 8 names. Code C, national security concerns, 15 names. And Code D, he paused. Code D, executive branch protection, 12 names. The room was dead silent now. You could hear people breathing. Executive branch protection, Massie repeated. The White House is protecting 12 people connected to Jeffrey Epstein from Department of Justice investigation. He looked at Bondi. Is that national security, Madam Attorney General, or is that a cover-up? Bondi's lawyers were now in full panic mode. They were looking at each other, they were writing notes, they were whispering, but they had nothing to do. The documents were there, the evidence was there, and in 15 minutes, Massie had pieced together the entire money trail. Massie said his final words, "Madam Attorney General, I came here today hoping you would explain this, hoping you would tell us that there is some reasonable explanation for $847,000 moving to a shell company 2 days after you took office. But instead you have sat there in silence. 92 seconds of silence. I timed it. 92 seconds where you could have denied this, could have explained this, could have defended yourself, but you did not." He gathered his documents. These bank records will be entered into the congressional record today. Every transaction, every routing number, every shell company. The American people will see it with their own eyes. He looked at Bondi one last time, and those 47 names, those names will come out. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but they will come out because the truth always comes out. And this cover-up, this massive, disgusting cover-up, cannot remain hidden forever. He stepped away from the microphone. "My time has expired, Mr. Chairman." The hearing technically continued after that. It went on for another hour. Other representatives asked other questions. Something about antitrust enforcement, something about immigration policy. None of it mattered. Nobody was listening. Nobody cared. Because Thomas Massie, a Republican congressman, had just done what nobody else would do. He named the money trail. He showed the documents. He connected $847,000 to Jeffrey Epstein settlements. And Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, sat there in 92 seconds of silence with no answer and nowhere to hide. Within minutes, the internet exploded. Hashtag Massie847 trending worldwide. Cable news cutting to emergency coverage. Legal experts debating whether Bondi just admitted to obstruction. And somewhere in 47 different locations, 47 very powerful people were probably making very panicked phone calls. This is not a conspiracy theory anymore. This is not speculation. This is documented fact, entered into the congressional record, backed by bank statements and wire transfer receipts. And Pam Bondi, the woman who was supposed to bring accountability to the Justice Department, just invoked silence rather than explain why she authorized $847,000 to settle Jeffrey Epstein-related claims. If you want to know what happens next, subscribe now. Tomorrow, those bank records go public. Every account, every name, every protected individual. And I will be here breaking down every single transaction. Share this video everywhere. This conversation needs to reach everyone. The pressure cannot stop until those 47 names are revealed. 92 seconds. That is all it took for Thomas Massie to dismantle the entire cover-up. $847,000, 2.3 million total, 47 protected names, and Pam Bondi sitting there in silence with nowhere left to hide.